person is not inflating their wealth by $800 million to $2.2 billion. They're not sexually assaulting women. They're not storing classified documents in the toilet. They're not fomenting an insurrection. Mar-a-Lago, you remember the documents?
Let's focus on this case. We can do a lot.
You always do that.
No. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about right and wrong. This is about hurting Donald Trump in an election year. Now, if you're like me, sometimes you'll watch Fox News and you'll watch The Five and you're having a good time, and then they turn to that one chair. And there was a time there when it was filled by Bob Beckel. May he rest in peace. He was entertaining, at least. And fun, I think. And then it was Juan Williams. And then it was Geraldo Rivera. And lately it's been Jessica Tarlov. And I'm thinking you're yelling back at the television a lot when Jessica gets her chance. Well, yesterday on The Five, they took up the issue of the judgment against Donald Trump in that New York courtroom, and how unjust it was, and how it's going to be bad for business in New York, and how it's a absolute suicide for the city and state of New York to signal to major businesses and real estate developers that basic business practices are now considered fraud, and you'll be fined $300 million if you engage in those kind of practices. Well, Jessica did her best to try to make the left's case, and I want you to see how the conversation developed.
I think emotion is hot at the table, and it is not emanating from me. So since Donald Trump ran the first time, he has been making this argument. If they could do this to me, they could do this to you. The average person is not inflating their wealth by $800 million to $2.2 billion. They're not sexually assaulting women. They're not storing classified documents in the toilet. They're not fomenting an insurrection. Mar-a-Lago, you remember the documents?
Let's focus on this case. We can do a lot.
You always do that.
No, Jessica, you're doing a laundry list.
Really? You get to judge Edgar on this too.
When we're focused on one topic. We're focused on one topic.
Okay.
And yes, it does matter.
Falsifying your business records. Do you do that?
No. I'll tell you what I do, because I'm glad you asked. When you're in a contract negotiation with a company, let's say your contract is up and your company says, we want to renew your contract, and they don't give you a bump in the raise. That's the beginning. And then you come back and you go, you know what? I'm going to ask for the frickin' moon, which I always do. And I know I'm not going to get the moon, but I also know at the end of the day, they're going to see everything. I can say, I want $100 million over the next 6 months. They're going to laugh. But that doesn't mean I broke the law. It means this is what you put down in a negotiation. And as the judge said, it's all transparent. They actually see it. There is no fraud here, which is why you're bringing up other stuff.
No, it's not. I started with that. And then I said, actually, it's a pattern. Well,
I'm sure.
I gotta get Jesse in. Let's just give you the final word.
I was going to say, you obviously, with respect, Jessica, know nothing about real estate valuations, real estate development, or the IRS, or getting loans from big banks to develop skylines in New York City. Donald Trump did more for New York City than 1,000 Letitia James has done. And if you look at this history of this case, she's gone after now Cuomo, Donald Trump, the NRA, the NYPD, and she's done nothing on street crime, nothing on real white-collar crime. And then her phony friend, Alvin Bragg, if you just try to defend yourself working at a bodega or on the subway, he goes after you. That's why 160 businesses have left New York. That's why almost 1 million New Yorkers have left.
You know, whenever you get a chance to give the final word in a debate, make it as good as Jesse Waters right there. And I do like it's all with due respect, Jessica, but you absolutely know nothing about what you're talking about, with all due respect. And actually, Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, pretty much validated exactly what Jesse and everyone else on the panel said to Jessica. Here, take a look at the governor of New York celebrating the judgment against Donald Trump. Look at that smile on her face, how happy she is about a judgment against Joe Biden's political enemy. You see, this guarantees Kathy Hochul a cabinet position if Biden wins. That's how this works, you know. Here, take a watch.
I just got off the phone with Attorney General Tish James and spoke to her about how this sends a strong message that in the state of New York, businesses, business people who commit fraud and to hide their assets will be caught and prosecuted, whether you're the President of the United States, a past president and forever past president of the United States, or you're an ordinary business person. No one is above the law here in the state of New York. And I congratulate her and her effort for making sure that that is a message that is heard loud and clear, not just here in New York, but across this entire nation.
Yeah, the message is loud and clear, all right. But here's the interesting thing about what she just said. This is a great sweeping decision for anyone who wants to do business, right? That's what she just said. You fraudulently hide your assets or misrepresent your assets to a bank. And I just remind you, and our pal Kevin O'Leary is going to remind you in no uncertain terms coming up in a moment, there were literally no victims in any of this crime. The bank that has supposedly been defrauded actually got paid back every penny plus interest that they asked for. If you ask literally anyone who does business anywhere in the world with regard to real estate and with regard to business loans, this is standard business practice, what you've seen here, right? And she just said, if you do what Donald Trump did in New York, you will be treated the same way. Now, within 12 hours of that statement, there were emergency cords pulled all over the state of New York and in the governor's mansion. People were terrified at what she just said, what you just saw. And she had to come up and do damage control. Why? Because anyone who is in business knows that this was the use of a law that has never been applied the way it was just applied against Donald Trump. And what the governor just said, what you just saw her say, was that we're going to do this to all y'all who try to come to our state and do business like Donald Trump. And every major business owner went, oh my God, this is a nightmare. I thought they were just going after Trump. No, they're coming after all of us. So Kathy Hochul had to do some damage control. She showed up on the WABC Talk Radio, and she said this Sunday night.
I know many of the business people in New York City, and by and large, they're honest people, and they're not trying to hide their assets, and they're following the rules. And so this judge determined that Donald Trump did not follow the rules. He was prosecuted, and truly the governor of the state of New York does not have a say in the size of a fine. I think that this is really an extraordinarily unusual circumstance that the law-abiding and rule-following New Yorkers who are business people have nothing to worry about because they're very different than Donald Trump and his behavior.
Yeah, so you see the attempt there. This is very extraordinary. Trump is a one-off. Trump is extraordinary. Trump is different. Trump is more corrupt than anyone else doing business. And here's the thing. Most businessmen know that's absolutely false. That's not the case at all. It is extraordinary. It is extraordinary in that not everyone is Donald Trump because not everyone is an existential threat to the political fortunes of Kathy Hochul and the Democrats who run that state. So the real message here, yes, is this is an extraordinary application of the law against one man who represents a threat to our political existence, and that's why we did this. So the message to other businessmen is not that we're going to treat you the exact same way if you conduct yourself in business the way Donald Trump did. No, the message is really we're going to go after you the same way if you dare to get out of your lane and come after us politically, because we have ways of getting you, and we will. These are mafia tactics. But what do you expect? It's New York, right? Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank has been an outspoken critic of this prosecution, and he was brilliant yesterday doing the full circuit. Here he is on Fox Business, and just so you know, there's a lot of this. This is Kevin O'Leary, a businessman, talking to Neil Cavuto, a business journalist, on a business network. So a lot of this has to do with business and valuation and depreciation and all the things that are involved in real estate. But I trust you and I respect your intelligence. You'll understand this. Take a look.
Doesn't matter what the governor says. New York was already a loser state. Like California is a loser state. There are many loser states because of policy, high taxes, uncompetitive regulation. It was already on the top of the list of being a loser state. I would never invest in New York now. And I'm not the only person saying that. And here's a real-time situation. In development in real estate right now, the hottest asset class is very high-end data centers. They cost anywhere from $2.5 to $3.5 billion each. They're very expensive. They require low power. You need permits. But most of the major institutions in the world need more data centers, and that's why developers like me are doing this. Now, you need power. So New York has Niagara Falls. Normally, you'd consider that to put in one of these facilities, create 400 jobs, 5 more jobs for each of one of those for auxiliary services. I can't go to New York. So I'm going to Oklahoma, North Dakota, West Virginia. Governor Stitt, Kevin Stitt, my staff have met with him. Governor Bergen, the same thing. Governor Justice. Those are winner states. They don't do things like this. I have to syndicate that debt and all that equity. We're talking billions of dollars here. Do you think any foreign institution or any private equity firm or any pension fund would touch New York? No. And that's why New Yorkers should be concerned. The fine people of New York should ask themselves, why are we such a loser state? How are we going to attract business? It's not just the existing businesses that are fleeing out to Texas and Florida. What about new money like this that I'm talking about, like a $4 billion data center? Not a chance I would put that in New York. Zero probability, never. And so they've got a lot of work to do to find themselves getting out of this situation. This has all occurred post-pandemic. Winner states versus loser states. Look at Tennessee right now, fastest growing city in America, Nashville. Winner state, good policy, competitive taxes. You've got to start thinking about this in the context of winners and losers. New York, mega loser state.
I do like the way New York businessmen speak, by the way. Mega loser. Loser, you're all losers. It's Trump-esque, isn't it? I wonder if this guy's vying for Secretary of Treasury. He showed up on CNN primetime last night as well and laid it out even better, frankly.
Wouldn't there be many companies who would not want to do business or loan money to people like yourself or investors if they know that they can get away with fraud and there's no recourse to protect them?
Excuse me, what fraud? This is not about Trump anymore. When you get a developer that builds a building and he says it's worth $400 million and he wants to borrow $200 million from a bank, which happens every day, everywhere on earth, including every American city, every developer is an entrepreneur. They shine the light on their building and they say it's worth 400. The bank does its own due diligence, as was done in this case, because they're very good at it. The banks are very good, and they say, no, it's worth 300. We're only going to loan you 150 million. That haggling has gone on for decades. That's how it works. And then in this case, even the bank that was supposedly defrauded testified and said, we didn't lose anything. We want to do business with this guy again. We'd like to, but the judge said, no. Let's penalize this developer for $355 million. And if we're going to do that, let's penalize all the developers all across America. They've all done the same thing. All of them should go to jail, and we should stop building buildings. That's what the message is from New York. Even the governor herself is concerned about what this looks like to investors all around the world. It's not just U.S. domestic. All around the world, people are talking about what happened here. You really think people want to invest money in New York after this? How about we go somewhere else?
I think there are people who would. I don't want to cut you off, but I want to converse with you instead.
You just did.
It's only because I want to have a conversation, Kevin, as opposed to just having you tell me.
You're a lawyer. You're a lawyer. You understand exactly what I'm talking about.
I got to tell you, I'm respectable for a number of reasons, Kevin O'Leary, but being a lawyer is one of those issues. But I'll tell you, when I hear your conversation, and I do want to converse with you about this point, I understand that there are legitimate concerns that were raised during the trial and will continue to be raised about who the quote unquote, who is actually bringing the suit. It wasn't the banks who were saying that we as consumers or unsophisticated feel this way, but Letitia James, the Attorney General, and I know you want to expand beyond Trump, has suggested, well, it's about making the playing field level for those who are not the major and billionaire investors, but for those who are supposed to put business records out there, want to get a loan, the idea of making sure that they have to have the same true statements included as those who have a lot more money. Is there any weight to that for you?
Well, I asked you who lost money, and I'll make it even clearer. You and I, we're developing a data center together, and I say to you, we can go to New York where this just happened. It's your money now. You're now an investor and you're taking risk. You're an entrepreneur with me, right beside me. We're together on the deal. Or I can show you Oklahoma, North Dakota, West Virginia, where the governors actually ran businesses. Let's go there where this never happened before. They have power. They have permits. They've got legislation that's supportive of entrepreneurship. Why would we go to New York? Why take the risk? My only point is, did we just diminish the great state of New York and the great people of New York? And shouldn't they ask for better management so they don't become a flyover state? Remember, New York has the highest taxes in the country, the worst regulatory environment, and it's incredibly mismanaged. And I'm pointing out now, on top of that, you get this insanity, a victimless crime. And forget about Trump. It's not about Trump. I don't care about Trump in this. I care about America, and I care about entrepreneurship, and I care about democracy and the fairness. The judicial system is now being criticized. People are asking themselves, the bar of New York, is this judge rational to charge $355 million in a case where no one lost any money? Is that good for the people of New York? Should the people of New York wake up to this and say, what's happening to us? Why is this becoming so perverse? Why are we the focus of this injustice? And I have nothing to do with Trump. I'm not supporting Trump. I'm supporting American entrepreneurship. And New York is slowly becoming the #1 loser state in America.
All right. So let me just sum this up for you, because Mr. O'Leary there, I think for his own purposes, rhetorically, and also for its extended media exposure, needs to say, this isn't about Trump. I'm not supporting Trump. Let's not make this about Trump. And that's the flaw in this entire argument here, because you're trying to make heads or tails out of this legal issue and this business issue and have it all make sense on the face of it. And you saw the interviewer there, the host at CNN, sort of attempted to say, well, you know, the attorney general said this is really about the little guy having a fair shot. She couldn't even make that case because it's laughable, because that's not what this is. And we know that's not what this is. You see, you try to apply basic rules of logic and fundamental truths to this case and try to have it make sense, and you will always fail. If you attempt to sort of, oh, let's take Trump out of the equation. Let's just talk about, because justice is blind. The lady with the scales wears a blindfold. So take Trump out of the equation. It shouldn't matter who the defendant is. It has to do with the actual facts of the case. So let's evaluate it that way. And we're trying to make sense of it. And we're trying to make our case. And you will always fail. Because, with all due respect, Mr. O'Leary, this is 100% about Donald Trump. You can't say, I don't care about Trump, take Trump out of the question, this isn't about Trump, because none of this would have happened if it was Kevin O'Leary engaged in this business situation. None of this would have happened if it was anyone other than Donald Trump, because this only makes sense when you see exactly what it is. An attorney general who ran for office promising the voters that if they elect her, she will get Donald Trump. That's literally what she ran on. And God bless her, she fulfilled her campaign promise, because that's what her goal was. And she engineered a way to utilize a law that has never been applied in this place before in a civil judgment, which meant there wasn't a jury, and it was just one judge's decision across the board. And she found herself the perfect judge too, didn't she? And by the way, for those of you, well, this is not going to stand up and this will get overturned. If it's not going to get overturned in the New York Court of Appeals, it'll probably get overturned in the Supreme Court. There's no way that you can apply the law this way. This is completely unjust and it's wrong. And you're 100% right. But again, you're taking one important element out of the equation. This isn't about the law. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about right and wrong. This is about hurting Donald Trump in an election year. And once you realize that that's all that this is about, then it makes perfect sense. And then all the other arguments really don't matter, you see. Do you think Letitia James or Kathy Hochul or the judge care if this gets overturned on an appeal in 2026? No, they don't care. They'll still get their TV shows and their book deals and their cabinet positions. This isn't about the law, and it's not about right and wrong, and it's not about justice. This is about politics, and this is about using the court system and the law and the gavel to harm a political enemy, an enemy that must be stopped at all costs. They got their headlines. Donald Trump found guilty, fined $355 million. Boom, done. And that, plus whatever other judgments they try to work together and cobble together in cities that are really hostile to Donald Trump, New York, Atlanta, and Washington, D.C. That's going to be your jury pools for the other trials. And they'll get their headlines and they'll hurt Donald Trump because that's what this is all about.